don't give a fuck if you take your shoes off. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And what is Sade? My name is Chelsea White.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film The Invite. And ladies and gentlemen and Topam fam, it is my great pleasure to tell you whom we've invited to fill our wayward New Zealanders' shoes today. Friend of the show, been on so many times we've lost count. Chelsea White, thank you for doing the show.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here, mostly sober.
Mostly sober. Yes, well, that's the goal.
There's a lot of the holiday podcasts. There's a lot of I do the podcast at 10 at night, and why would I be sober by that time? You know,
of course.
That's on you for scheduling it then. But
and true. And listen, it is Sunday early evening, and we're both drinking now anyway, so it doesn't.
It doesn't really matter. I actually got ticketed for drinking on the Coney Island boardwalk just a few hours before doing this. Am I sharing too much of my private life on your podcast about movies? This is a real thing that happened. Me and my husband and my best friend went to Coney Island, and we had a couple beers on the beach, as you do.
Yeah.
We're adults.
Yeah.
And I mean, my bad. I'm just not thinking. I had like maybe there was one sip left in it in my little koozie, and we're packing up, like walking, trying to go, just trying to get to the subway. For many steps, I'm thinking, oh, I should throw this away. Oh, where's the trash can? I should throw this away. And then here they come. Keystone Cops. Ma'am.
No.
Ma'am.
No.
What's that in your koozie?
Could be anything.
I have to pay $25.
You know
they
what?
said I could fight it, but is it worth it? What's worth it? Is it worth $25 of my time to go to Brooklyn and try to fight it?
Absolutely not. I would say, good game, beach cops. You win this round.
You win this quota.
There's so many.
Godspeed.
There's so many instances where the ticket is so exorbitant that I would be like, yeah, absolutely go to
100%. If they were trying to like.
$500.
Yes.
But no, this seems like, you know what? They got you. And Chelsea,
that's really what it was. I was like, you got me.
So rarely can we look at an interaction like that and truly think in an innocent way, you know what? Yeah, you got me.
I'll give you this one.
Yeah. So
you're right.
Maybe we just take that as a weird, like, underhanded win. Oh my God.
And on that note,
The Invite.
The Invite.
So this film was lauded at the film festivals. I try to remember which one it debuted at, but it's funny. Shahir originally said, I've heard excellent things about this. We have to do it. And I heard nothing about it, and I was like, great. And I put it into the schedule. And then Shahir's like, I'm fucking off for 3 weeks. And this is no. This isn't exactly how it went. We've actually planned this after this episode to cover.
Don't stick up for him.
I have to.
I think
He's not
that's exactly
here.
how it went. Yeah, that's fair. You're a kind person.
But
we love you, Shahir.
He essentially he wanted to do this one, then couldn't because he was leaving, and so I put it on the slate. And right after this one, for our summer time, because he's traveling and then I'm traveling for some conventions. Sure. Essentially, we're doing the summer of John Cusack. So we're doing three films coming up. I believe it's High Fidelity, into Grosse Pointe Blank, into Con Air.
Fantastic.
So this is the last recent movie that we're releasing before we go into that. And then I think we're going to come back with probably Spider-Man or the Odyssey and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited to be like the kickoff to Cusack or the pre-kickoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is great.
It's funny. I knew nothing about this movie other than seeing a trailer very briefly, like, or part of one, as I was entering a theater late. So did you know anything about this movie either?
I knew less than that. I hadn't seen, the only thing I saw was the the poster
of
when we went to buy the tickets. Yeah. And I knew that Olivia Wilde was going on a press tour because I saw her open up about Miss Flowgate. If you remember that whole debacle.
Right. That was in, oh God, what film was that? That was,
something Darling.
Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry,
Darling. Yes. So I knew she had recently opened up on a podcast about the various scandals surrounding Don't Worry, Darling. And that's the only reason I knew that there was even a movie happening. So that's the extent. I knew zero.
So this is the third feature film from Olivia Wilde directing. She has done Booksmart, she has done Don't Worry, Darling, and now The Invite. I did not see Don't Worry, Darling.
I did not either, but I did see Booksmart.
Yeah, Booksmart was great.
Yeah. was
And
fun.
I feel like Don't Worry, Darling, the story of the behind the scenes of whatever was going on there feels more like the thing that took the wind out of the sails, whether it was good or not. Don't Worry, Darling's a whole thing. So
it was a whole thing of which I can only assume the lore around it was maybe more interesting than the film. That's I never saw the film. Maybe it's great, but
we
I know more about the lore than the film. Yes.
And then comes along The Invite, which I will say, the Internet Movie Database says The Invite is this. Here we go. Joe and Angela's marriage is on thin ice. When they invite their enigmatic upstairs neighbors for a dinner party, the night spirals into unexpected places. This movie was so fun to experience not knowing a goddamn thing about it.
Yes.
And maybe as we discuss it, we can kind of like, we'll do our sort of first thoughts into more of spoiler town USA when we get a little bit more at the halfway point. But Chelsea, what were your sort of first impressions of all of this? This is essentially of this film that is truly, it's four people in a room. It's Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Well, I've been really curious since I saw it to hear what your thoughts are. I thought it was really well directed. I thought it was well cast, well done, overall entertaining, held my attention. I'm a little bit torn. Like you said, it's four people in a room. So it is one of those movies where the whole thing is just like realistic, witty, irreverent dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe how'd they think to write that dialogue and, deliver it so like realistically, like, wow, this is how people talk, like one of those sort of, and sometimes movies like that are hard for me to fully immerse myself in because all I can think about is, I guess, exactly the way I described it. Like I can only think about the person writing it being like, this is really going to wow them. No one's ever written dialogue this realistic before. Just four people in a room having a realistic conversation. I don't know. So sometimes I struggle with that, but for a movie like that, it kept my attention and I got into it better than other movies like that. Does that make sense?
It does. It's funny. So it's funny that you mentioned the sort of the act of you had a hard time, or oftentimes in these films you have a hard time divorcing the act of creating what the scene, like the writing of the scene or anything that from the scene itself. Right. This is a film that is based off of a Spanish film, I believe, called The People Upstairs.
That's right.
And this has also been remade a bunch of times.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah,
I knew it was a remake of a foreign film, but I didn't know it was a multi.
Yeah, and it also has a real stage play kind of vibe. And when you do something like this, it is often hard to divorce yourself from that because a movie like this lives or dies based on the performances and the writing of these four actors. 100%. And I feel like for the majority of these characters, they all felt incredibly real to me with the exception of one. And I'll sort of get into that. Oh. And not that it was bad by any means of the imagination. It's just that it didn't feel like it felt a little. Okay, I'll just go into it. So Ed Norton and Penelope Cruz's characters, I feel like I lost Ed Norton and Penelope Cruz in them. I feel like they were fully developed characters. I felt like I was watching people, like not the actors, right? So that's sort of, it worked on that end.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen felt like I was watching Seth Rogen, but that's his brand. Right. And then therefore I'm in it. Seth Rogen, essentially, as this movie sort of spirals, is the audience surrogate of the what the fuck kind of like character. And then Olivia Wilde's character I really liked, but also felt the most like I was watching acting. Not bad acting, but acting. I think she did a good job, but I never felt like I understood the character of Angela. Because Seth Rogen plays Joe, Olivia Wilde plays Angela, Penelope Cruz plays Pina, and Edward Norton plays, air quotes, Hawk. And I feel like, I don't want to even say that it's a detriment to Olivia Wilde. I think that this movie is directed immaculately, and I think she does an excellent job. I just think I saw the craft the immaculate craft that she was doing when she was doing it. It didn't kick me out by any means of the imagination, but there was a weird sort of like, I'm lost in everyone else. Everyone else is their own thing, even though I will say Seth Rogen's is a bit of a cheat because that's always just him.
He's just being him, 100%.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I feel exactly the same. And we were actually, because my husband saw this movie too. I went with my husband and we were talking about this on the beach right before I got ticketed. And, and we were saying, you know, I would be interested if you agree. We felt the same about Olivia Wilde, and we felt that way in particular, at least one reason, because she was sort of trying to be the almost like the female version of Seth Rogen's like Everyman. But that's not who she is. Like you're Olivia Wilde, like you're gorgeous, you're perfect, you're like. And she was trying to play this like, I'm just so insecure, every girl. I'm not sexy. I'm just such a weirdo. It's like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it was a little bit of a miscast. And I feel like that's a little bit why, at least me personally, sometimes I was sort of like, okay, Olivia, we get it. Like, put yourself in your movie, do a vanity project. No shade. Now I sound like I'm like shitting on the whole situation, Olivia Wilde. But it is a little bit of that vibe, right?
And I think, yes. I think that they do as good of a job as they can, essentially putting the girl in glasses before she comes down the stairs to a prom date kind of vibe, right? Like
100%. It's like, oh, she has like a quirky little braided hairdo, so like, she must be not cute. It's like, what?
But again, like, this is why I even though I think everything we're saying is true, I don't really dock points to the movie itself for it. Because every movie since movies were made kind of did this. And I kind of have a bit more of a respect for Olivia Wilde being like, nah, I'm making this movie and I'm being in it and I'm going to do a great job, even if it is noticeable the great job that I am doing. Like
that's fair. That's totally fair.
I kind of dig it. The thing that I think sets this movie up to succeed overall is honestly the beginning of it. We see these two characters in their lives, sort of like more Seth Rogen at his job, not really giving a shit, and sort of being lost as a music teacher. But then as the credits roll, and we kind of have a very old school, like it. I know when Harry Met Sally didn't like do this, but it felt like a real, like sort of like how a rom-com in the 80s or early 90s would open, of like split screens and slide framings and like all this other stuff. Yes. And at first I was like, well, this is just good. This is neat. And then as the movie went on, I was like, oh, this is not only visually engaging, but also doing excellent work setting up the fact that these two characters are so separated from each other at this point. Like in the very beginning, you kind of hear what you imagine. I think you might even see like some film or something of Seth's and Olivia's characters, like when they first got together. This sort of it's like romance. He's like daydreaming about it while he's teaching class, and then when we see her prepping the apartment and him riding home on his shitty folding bike, like. They are so separate. Like the framing of all of those things are framed differently and separated in a way that just makes it seem like these are two people whose paths do not like align anymore. Yeah. And that was a really good and I think apt way of setting up, at least giving I didn't realize it till about halfway through the movie that happened. I was like, that just looks neat. It was a really good way to get the vibes right for when he first gets home. And they start having essentially like an argument about whether or not they want to have people over. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
I also loved the beginning of this movie's dynamic. Actually, their dynamic, I think, the characters of Joe and Angela, I think have they feel like a real relationship. I think Peanut and Hawk feel like a catalyst relationship a bit, but again, that's totally fine. But I loved the conversations that Joe and Angela were having before Peanut and Hawk get there.
Yeah, for sure.
It felt like, I don't know, like I'm just recently married, and Chelsea, you've been married for a little bit. But it feels like the kind of like if you're in a bad mood or a bad place, the kind of discussion points about doing any sort of social ability thing. And obviously these characters have a deeper
things happening.
Yeah. But like everything here, even though it was clearly Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde trying to be a less Olivia Wilde character than she is, it all felt real. Like it all felt like, yeah, I've had these conversations. This is a back and forth that feels true.
100%. No, very realistic and very like, you know, the husband's trying to eat the cheese and
that's how the beginning for Act 1, husband trying to eat the cheese.
If that isn't just a metaphor for life and heterosexual relationships, I don't know what is. Yeah, for sure. And like even like when he comes down and lays on the floor because of his back and like, you know, everything was totally relatable. Well, not the fact that they didn't have any just like spare wine in the house. That was hard for me to get on board with and immerse myself in. But, you know, to each their own.
I knew that would be a hitch point for you. The moment it happened, I was like, Chelsea's gonna bring up this
take her out of it. No, you're totally right.
I think that setting up these two's issues and then, or like actually hinting visually that these two have a deeper issue than our standard day-to-day like couples long-term nitpicking or problems with like one person wants to do something social and the other doesn't. I think does a really good job at sort of like being light and funny, but also being in a headspace of there's a real problem here. And then when you finally meet Pina and Hawk, again, Penelope Cruz and Edward Norton, whom you kind of learn through a couple different small interactions of like, oh, he's weird in the elevator. You know, we see her through the window sometime, or like what, like all these different things for neighbors. And also how Angela and Joe, and by their own admission, they say how they just don't have friends.
Right.
Queen Carvania stood haloed by the morning sun. An army hung on her every word.
My champions, I have sold my chariot on Carvana. 'Twas a lovely SUV, an inexplicably queenly offer. They're even coming to the castle to collect it. Tonight, we feast! An offer you can feast on. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Angela, I think, wants as a character to be sort of a bit more social than she has been sort of put into the box of her life currently. Joe essentially has kind of like, I mean, given up to a point and then just sort of like lived along, and like they have a great line, which we'll get into, about like the act of sort of being miserable. That I think is a real sort of like therapizing moment, literally and figuratively in the movie. But then you finally get sort of the other two catalysts being these other characters. When they came in, Chelsea, like what was, because you hadn't seen a trailer, you had just seen the What was your thought process? Where did you think this was like going before it got there?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Like, did you have any idea where it was going? I did not. I had zero clue where it was going. And I actually foolishly, maybe naively, it took me like longer into the movie than probably other people till I really pinpointed like where it was going.
I think I got on board. I think a lot of the way that Hawk, Edward Norton's character, sort of spoke was like the real like poking the bear, hinting that they were asking them to sort of have a foursome or have some sort of sexual relationship with them. Where Penelope Cruz's Pina was sort of like so cold and like not cold, but like like
she doesn't want to eat the hamon. She doesn't want to. She's very like shutting everything down.
She doesn't eat meat, cheese, sugar, like and all this stuff. And you can see. I love to anyone who's thrown a dinner party or anything who's trying to impress people, myself included. You do kind of crumble if you get something wrong.
Totally.
And that felt very real. Every moment I feel like so many small, tiny moments felt real and lived in throughout Joe and Angela's relationship.
Definitely.
Obviously, Pina and Hawk are sort of this, I don't want to call it like otherworldly sort of like force, but they're the neighbors. Like I'm trying to remember if I've ever actually had neighbors that have been like, come over for dinner.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like neighbors that you're sort of like, I'm sort of like, I want to impress you. Like I a little bit
that too.
Have like a neighbor crush on you.
I've had social elements that I've wanted to impress. But I don't know it being a neighbor is something that's like, cause you're so close to home is something that I don't think I've ever had. Like I've worked hard to impress people before, but not in that way.
And you, not to give up, too much of your personal information, but your address is, but you live, we both live in New York City. You live in a building with a few units, like not many units. And I live in a building right now with like, I want to say like 50-ish, 60 units. And
how many of your neighbors do you know?
Well, the funny story, I mean, the TLDR for the podcast that this is not a, tenant union podcast. I don't think. Yeah. It could become one.
Why not?
But we have had a lot of trouble with the management company that recently bought our building. And so we've sort of like informally unionized, and now 95% of the tenants in our building are in a group chat that we have.
That's great.
Just to like organize against our management company. So for that reason, we have started to hang out with our neighbors, and like we have like a common area and like a roof deck and stuff. So like, yeah.
Okay.
This is like relatable in that sense.
So none
of them have asked us for group sex yet.
But let's see how the union goes.
Exactly. Let's see how it unfolds.
I like, don't get me wrong. Both my neighbors in the other units are all very cool. Some have been on the podcast before at the very, what's it called? The White Elephant
party. Yeah.
But like, I don't think I've ever been like nervously prepping in that way. And it's such a high stakes thing because you live right next, like you can't run away from that.
It's the quintessential shitting where you eat.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's weird, it's real weird.
So
seeing him in the elevator.
Yeah. I think what this movie does very, very well is transitions the viewer, I think mainly through Seth Rogen's character.
Sure. Yeah. And you're right. Like he is sort of the like, he's our surrogate. He's the one bringing in the viewer of like. Yeah.
I think he essentially does a really good job at moving us through the different parts of this thing where he has a problem. Oh, we didn't even bring this up. He has a problem because he can hear them having sex upstairs.
Right. Yes, of course.
And his whole thing is like, well, if they're coming over, I'm talking to him about it. And she's like, don't bring it up. And it's like that back and forth thing.
Right.
And so after a while, when things sort of like settle in, there is, he begrudgingly brings up that he wants, that he has something he wants to tell them. And like I'm trying to remember, do they go first? Because they're like, oh, we have something to tell you too. I think they actually do.
I think Pina and Hawk actually go first. Yeah.
And so they apologize. That's what I like. Like it all has this movie has a really good build to the very, very end.
Yes.
they apologize in case they were too loud. And
Right.
at first you don't quite know why. And then Seth Rogen's like, oh, that's of course, because it's the thing. And they kind of like connect in that way. And then they reveal that it's because they had like a 3-way one night. Well, actually it was 4 people. Well, actually it was 6 people. Actually,
Right.
it was a special occasion. So it was 10 people. Although the 10 person one was upstate. Oh, ha 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 ha.
Right.
And then something really, really interesting happens. Before there's any uncomfortableness from either Seth Rogen or Olivia Wilde's characters, there's a really interesting sort of like way this movie gets very small. And this felt real too, when you like meet someone that has something that is outside of your purview and you're just sort of like interested in how they live X, Y, and Z. So the whole movie kind of shrinks to them on these 2 couches with one person on the floor. And they're all kind of like, it's all very close. And they just keep asking, Joe and Angela keep asking Pina and Hawk, like, how it works.
Right.
And then it becomes less, and I think this is an excellent directorial choice by Olivia Wilde. It becomes less of a, like, there's no more hostility. You've even lost Joe and Angela's hostility towards each other.
Yeah.
They're now on a team learning about a thing that is either taboo or interesting or something. And they're all at this point in the evening, like just 4 people hanging out and like with 2 that have information and the other 2 are just like super interested in that information.
Yes.
Like, at that point, did you expect them to sort of like keep it going, or like what was like? I'm just curious because like I was like, oh, I know. At that point, I was like, well, this is obviously going to spiral into them being like, we saw you across the room and we really like your vibe. Right. Is that kind of where you landed as well?
I did definitely, but I mean, probably only up until that point was the only time that I realized that's really where it was going. Even when they were talking about, oh, we can hear them having sex, and then, you know, little other signals, like you said, that you picked up on of Edward Norton's character. I was still in the dark. My repressed Catholic upbringing, maybe. But when they got to that point, I was like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah. And I think
this is a proposition.
I'm trying to
This is an invite.
An invite. I think that, did they separate what the Edward Norton and Hawk and Angela go for a house tour and Joe and Pina go to smoke a joint in the office before this is revealed? I think,
they had done that. Yeah, exactly. And that led to them all coming back together and talking about the loud sex and the sex parties. Yeah. So
there's an interesting thing too, I think, that happens when you have just like a couple over, or like even new people, like when I like that they got this almost the entirety of this movie feels very real in that sense, where like in the separations, there's sort of like hints of whatever's maybe going to go on, but like they're also just like having a nice time regardless of whatever is going on. And there's some like weird stuff like showing the tattoos in the office, or I think I'm trying to remember what the awkward moment Hawk and Angela have when they're giving the tour, because they're talking like about bathroom tile a lot of the time.
Right. And then was it awkward, or was it just awkward for the audience? Because there was something that happened where we flashed to them in the bedroom.
I remember. She has that you think that she's going to be talking to him about a difficult thing about Joe, but it's actually about the paint on the wall that Joe doesn't give a shit about.
Yes.
And that felt, what a good misdirect, and a good, like, that to me is one of the many moments of this movie. Like, you, to your point, Chelsea, like you had a hard time like getting out from under this film, sort of like, we're so clever, ha ha ha. That moment felt like a real, like, I never even thought about the cleverness of it. I just really enjoyed it as it rolled past.
Yeah. 100%. And I thought to your point about the awkwardness, just the whole time that Angela is trying to impress Hawk with her, like she picks up his breadcrumb of him being interested in her rug and like making like 1 or 2 casual compliments. And she takes it so deeply to heart that she's now, leading him on this journey around the house, like expecting him to keep falling over her decorating choices. And you can tell that he doesn't not like her decorating choices, but her desperation for a crumb of approval is very, I felt uncomfortable during all these interactions. I was like, girl, have some chill.
Yeah. I think Edward, and again, I know Edward Norton, the actor, is known for being kind of a pain in the ass on set. Actually, and just as a quick aside, there was a really great meme going around. I think it was at one of the World Cup games.
I was just going to say that.
Where him and Brad Pitt are hanging out, like talking, and it says,
he's talking to himself.
He's talking to himself. Like here, a picture of Ed Norton talking to himself. And it was just a very nice Fight Club reference. I thought that was very fun.
That's so fun. We'll have a good time.
I think Ed Norton here kind of in a large way steals the show in the most interesting kind of performance because he's the quietest. Like, I think that he's doing so much in his mannerisms and his eyes and what he chooses to say and how he says what when, that like when the reveal happens of them inviting them to be to have sex with them, it all makes so much sense. Like he could be up to that point just a weird esoteric guy, but at the same time, like he rides the knife's edge so well that that when it happens, you're not surprised and you almost feel vindicated and like, should I have felt weird when he was talking like that?
Right.
I don't know. I think that he and the eventuality of sort of what happens later with some discussion points really does an excellent job of taking what could be a one-note character and turning him into someone that actually, even though he is eccentric, feels very real.
Yeah, totally.
So at this point, I feel like, sorry, I'm going to back up very quickly because we can just go through and we still will the moment to moment sort of things and how I think overall, and we're very well into spoilers at this point, how well this movie does at making a bunch of disparate characters feel like they are in real relationships, interacting with one another, and in like existing in what is essentially the home of a failed marriage. I think the way that decoration is treated in this film, either it be the rug that Joe was pissed that she bought because the neighbors were coming over, but Hawk loves because he's gotten into rugs, like, and then or going into the office and you kind of see Joe's office about like really musical and the piano that he doesn't touch because he's sort of lost himself. But Pina being very interested in that, or even like the safety of in that time, I love the cut back to them when they're talking about the hamon, but it's not hamon. It's like a different thing. And they're like, don't tell her. Like they're doing like a little secret thing. Like there's a lot of ways that in social situations, when you actually do connect with a person, like, this is an odd thing to say, beyond the group sex of it. Like when you're in a conversation with a new person that you've been separated in based on a social cue or something like that, and you have a connection of something innocent enough like that where you're like, well, don't say this to them, they'll be off. You're like, oh, okay, cool. And you kind of have that, ha ha ha, we have a thing now.
Yes.
Like that's a really nice feeling to have. And both sets of characters, this movie does a really good job of making that feel real. Again, whatever the comfortability level of what happens next, that's neither here nor there, but they're making it so like when that shoe drops, the audience accepts it and it doesn't turn into an instant everyone would freak out kind of situation.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it gives us a little, it desensitizes us to it. That's probably not the best descriptor, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it primes, it preps, it
primes.
Yeah,
that's better.
So obviously, then we get to the point where they do the "my husband and I saw you from across the road and we really liked your vibe" invitation to them. And it's funny because at this point, I think the movie again. If it's not obvious by this point, I really liked this movie. I think this movie does an excellent job at showing 3/4 of real feeling odd people that then gets into a situation that, even though it is outside of social norms, also feels real, and every character reacts in a way that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
When they invite them to be to have sex with them, essentially, the thing that didn't feel real to me, this is the one bit, was that like Hawk and Pina like picked them. Now,
Okay.
it makes sense in a sense of, as we find out later, Angela has been walking by a window naked on purpose to feel something in her relationship, and Hawk sees her in the window, and they never made eye contact. That's a whole big important thing.
Yes.
But there was something, I think, about the Seth Rogen character where I know Edward Norton kept being like, I really like you, but he kept saying things like, I really like the hostility, or like, I really like where things that don't like quite make sense.
Right.
Where I never, like, you get that Pina and Hawk are, the characters at the very least are like equal opportunity folks, where like, I don't think that looks play into a ton of thing with them. Not that Seth Rogen isn't an attractive man. He looks fine. But like
He looks fine.
Yeah, but like nothing nothing Joe has done has ingratiated himself
Totally.
with the group, other than eventually when there's an argument, he like looks at Pina's boobs when they're in the elevator.
Right.
So like, I was at that point, I was like, well, are they just like, I was waiting for like a weird third shoe to drop at that point. Cause I was like, there's no way.
Of like a different, like a hidden motivation, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
So you didn't get that at all.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that was just a point where I chalked it up to the movie doing what I expected to do, which is like get to a point where I'm taken out of it. First they don't have wine, and now they want to have sex with Seth Rogen. No way. But like,
these are two things that Chelsea cannot abide
get on
by.
board.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you in so much that I kind of felt like until the part about Angela walking past the window and then like her and Hawk having that little thing that we didn't know about, I'm like, okay, that all makes sense. And now maybe, Seth Rogen's character is just here as a thing that they have to deal with because they want the whole situation to happen and they want Angela to be a part of it and feel connected to her.
Yeah.
And the convenience of them being in the same building. So like, what's not, to love about the geographical convenience.
Yeah.
But before that, I kind of thought that they maybe were into it because they felt like they could be like the dominant forces in the situation.
Right.
Like maybe not in a predatory way. I don't mean it to, but just a little bit like, oh, these are people that of course will be into, we just want more people to sort of like play our game, so to speak. And these will be easy people to like control.
Yeah. I think
that's like a very dark way to phrase it. But
I have met folks in my life that have been on both sides of the spectrum that you have just described. Like essentially doing the dark version, which this movie does not do, of people like this that are sort of in a controlling or want to be like the center of a thing or want that like that ability or that essence in that in a friendship or even proposed sexual relationship. And then I have met folks that have just been like kind of like these people. Like, and I think that what this movie does so well is I wasn't anyway. I wasn't quite sure which version of these people we were going to get until near the like 80% mark. Because then I think it stops being less about the shock and awe of like, oh, they're inviting us to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or even like separate. Because I think that at that point they're like, well, tonight's not the night for all this. So let's just sort of like separate. And that obviously has slapstick nonsense throughout the entire thing with Joe's back. And I love Angela's mad at him about his back ruining the night, which is so fucking funny. And I'll go back to an overall, I guess, sort of like a reason why I think this movie only works if you balance a ton of spinning plates. And I do think that Olivia Wilde and the writers actually do spin the plates very, very well. This movie undulates between being funny, being really emotionally like draining and dark, and being kind of like sexy and taboo. And it keeps all those plates spinning consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that's not an easy task to do. Any one of those things feeling off will knock you out of even wanting to believe that this is a real situation.
That's true. That's a good point.
So like I do think that the way that it functions, even at this point when the pair-offs go wrong and then it starts getting like, it's funny, I'll use a term, then it starts getting real. When they all sit down again and they start having conversations about like what's actually going on. And it first starts, if I remember correctly, and correct me when I'm wrong, I think
I will.
Yeah. I think it starts when Joe calls out Hawk on Hawk's name.
Okay.
When he
wait.
Right?
Go. You're saying that's when it
starts getting like turning real, and that's when I started understanding like, oh, these people aren't trying to maneuver in a dark way. This is like actually what they believe.
This is just, they're very authentically just want to have sex parties.
And
with abandon.
And the reason why I know that it's not like a dark place, at least for these characters, is, and I think Pina's like a sex therapist or something.
Yes, right.
I think the reason why you realize that now is they like don't want to keep going. Like they're like,
yes, they put the brakes on, and they're sort of like, this isn't working out. Yeah.
And so I think the moment that Joe attacks Hawk about like his name, and then Hawk very earnestly goes through his previous marriage, and he was buttoned up, and he did this thing, and he's like, and, you know, because he makes up I like it because it's a build, and again, this is very clever writing. He's like, your real name's not Hawk, and he's like, where'd you get that? He's like, I gave myself the name. He was like, that's the saddest thing in the world, and then it's an instant turn by Ed Norton handling a very difficult scene about like why he named himself Hawk. And by the end of it, you're like, fuck, I feel this guy, damn. Like, even if you didn't like him before,
so
you're like,
earnest.
Yeah. And then the breakdown of Pina sort of breaking into both Joe and Angela's lives of like why they're not connecting, why they don't have sex anymore, why their lives are where they are, and then eventually sort of like handing that off to Angela and Joe themselves.
Yeah.
I've been in relationships in the past where it like people just miss the train of that connection where you end up resenting the other person for X, Y, and Z because time moved on and no one corrected something. So it just sort of snowballs.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that they handle that conversation about like, I think Angela says something along the lines of like, well, you just want to be miserable.
Yes.
And he attacks back. Oh God, I'm trying to remember exactly how. I feel like it's hard to kind of give a blow by blow because it does feel very real.
Yeah. But it's something to say. He basically says, just like, let me be miserable. I mean, it's ostensibly right. Yeah. It's like she's saying you just chose to be miserable. And he's sort of like, and what of it? Basically, he's just like, XYZ happened to me. My life turned out, in ways that I didn't think it would. And my dreams were shattered. Why shouldn't I be miserable? And like, why can't you just let me be miserable? You know?
Yeah, and that is again, I have been in relationships where I have dated the Seth Rogen character, not Joe Rogan. Dear God, that would be a different.
It's a totally different movie.
Yeah, and it sucks because like if you're not aligned in that way, then it's not ever gonna go anywhere. So this movie felt very. I'm always a fan of cinema that can get to the heart of often either tricky or more often than not simplified relationships when it comes to cinema. And this movie, I think, does a really excellent job of navigating the waters of in something as either a taboo or like what's the word I'm looking for? Like non-normalized as like inviting another couple to have sex with them. I
Right.
think that it does a really good job at highlighting, like it uses that as a catalyst to really deep dive into like very real feeling, emotionally difficult places for these characters that does feel ultimately relatable.
Yeah.
I also think, and maybe I'd be interested in what you think about this. We don't have in the current day a lot of comedies that do this. Like,
Sure.
I think this movie is very funny. Like we're talking about it sort of very seriously. I thought it was hilarious. Did you find it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, very funny.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that like this movie again is spinning a lot of plates, and I wish we had more comedies that had more of an emotional resonance throughout the entire thing, as opposed to what I call like sort of like the third act hug, where like a great one, the Jennifer Lawrence movie, which I thought was very funny, a recent comedy. I think it's No Hard Feelings.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Where she essentially, the parents of like a shut-in kid kind of hire her, even though she's too old, to like date him to like make sure he's not a virgin or something before he goes off to college or something.
Okay, right. I feel like I see the clip a lot where she's sort of like, I'm 30 in 2 years or 2 years ago. Like, whatever that is, something like that. Yeah.
That's a movie that I think has a really good emotional core, but doesn't actually do anything with it except for in moments of like 5 to 10 minutes in the entire movie. I feel like this movie's emotional core, even though it again is a comedy, like is on its sleeve the entire time. And I think that's incredibly difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think, again, I didn't see Don't Worry, Darling, so I have no idea. But I feel like Olivia Wilde is sort of primed, especially from a Booksmart situation. Like she handled emotionality in a teen comedy that way, I think, very well. Like you kind of got, even though that's like, again, what's that, like 10 years later from Superbad, right? Like it's
something like that, right?
It's a more emotionally resonant Superbad.
Right. Yes, for sure. So what are we saying? Is Olivia Wilde a genius?
I mean, I don't know if she's a genius. I think she's an excellent director. I think 2 out of 3.
She's a good director, isn't she? Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, even though maybe it's 3 out of 3 and I just haven't seen it.
We just haven't seen it. Maybe we should. No, I totally agree. I mean, overall, well, here's actually though a question for you. You really love this movie. You really enjoyed it. Would you rewatch this movie? Is this a movie you could rewatch?
Yes, but for different reasons than why I think I enjoyed it on the first time. Because there is a real mystery box element to it that once unwrapped, you kind of get it, and you won't get the same vibe from it twice, I think. Right. What I like about it is because it's such a small, like essentially one apartment piece, I think there's probably lots of pieces because I've picked up on so many sort of small things that all the characters did throughout that really like balanced out where they end up. I bet you there's like at least 50% more that I didn't catch. Yes. That would be very fun to 1,000% know exactly where it's going and try to clock the hints on the way.
Yeah. Totally.
Here's the real question. Or not the real question. You just asked a real question. What the other question would be, how dare I? The other question would be, how many times would this be a rewatch?
That's exactly.
And I think it's a one rewatch for me. Like, I think this is not like a classic that's going to like
become like a comfort movie for you.
No,
it wouldn't be like, let's just put the invite on.
Yeah.
While we make dinner.
No, this isn't Weird the Al Yankovic story, sadly. This is, but like, I really like films that have a finite viewing amount for me, if that makes sense, especially when I really like them. Not the same way, but the Michael Douglas film, The Game.
Now you're speaking my language.
So I've seen that movie once.
Stop.
And I love it though. And I love that every time I think about it, I just am like, what a great film to see once.
You didn't even revisit it just one second time?
No.
Wow.
Because I feel like the surprise or whatever is so pertinent to that, where like learning all the little hints, like I don't know if it would help me have a better time than I've already had with it.
I mean, that makes you're making total sense. That's like a periodic rewatch for me.
Is it?
It's not like full on like comfort movie. Like it's not like something that's in like heavy rotation, but that's for sure like maybe every 5 years I'm kind of like, I watched the game in 5 years. Yeah. 3 years. Yeah.
Sometimes.
But at any rate, that makes sense. Here's another question. Here's the real question.
The real question. Give me the real question.
Do you think they ended up reconciling at the end, or was that like a goodbye to the relationship?
So I am a incredible hater of movies
That's why I love you, Matt.
Yeah, that have ambiguous endings. Shahir and I argue about it all the time. And I used to think, actually, let me rephrase. I used to think that I was a hater of ambiguous endings. I think what I really hate is when I feel like a director or a storyteller, either there's two sort of versions. Either has a version that they want, but they like want to keep it away for like the audience, like whatever.
They take the powder, they cop out, or they don't want the audience to know.
Or they have no idea whatsoever, and so therefore like let the audience decide. And I think in those no idea scenarios, that shows a real not connecting with the material that you're actually crafting. I think, but so but as I've sort of seen more films with ambiguous endings, I feel like if the piece's ending is, how do I put it? If the piece's ending can give you a complete narrative arc with the actual themes of the film, and still then doesn't really matter where the characters end up, that does work for me, because it feels like the movie has built towards any ending on that spectrum.
Okay.
Where a lot of movies don't do that. Like a lot of movies will end in a weird, almost like spot where the movie just stops instead. And you're like, well, that doesn't feed into literally any of the points that this movie is making. That we've been
like building towards. Yeah.
So this movie, I think, does a really good job with at the end, sort of them, obviously Pina and Hawk leave. I like that they just disappear too, like they're ghosts.
I see. That's where I thought there was going to be some other reveal of like, was this just like an acid trip? Yeah, exactly. There haven't been a Pina and Hawk here in 35 years.
Yeah. Would have been amazing. But like, well, I'll get to that in a second. So like when they separate, they're like, I guess I'll sleep in the other room or I'll sleep in the office, whatever. And then Seth Rogen's Joe starts playing the piano for the first time after there's been a big taboo about playing the piano. And then Angela comes in and starts playing the piano, and they kind of put their heads on each other's shoulders / heads there. And it's a very loving and sort of romantic coming together moment that is reminiscent of the very beginning audio that we hear before Seth Rogen wakes up from trying to not teach a high school music class.
Right.
And I think truly because it does a great wrapper of like showing where they could go based on where they were, it doesn't matter if they end up together or not. And therefore the ambiguous ending still kind of works, because them together was never actually the point of the movie. The point of the movie was them reconciling where they actually were with one another. And I feel like they've actively done that. And whatever they choose next, they'll be better off for it.
Right, because they've acknowledged. So then they've acknowledged the state of the relationship.
Yep.
So then whatever the decision is immaterial. Interesting. You're right.
Did you have a read though? Did you were like, no, they're breaking up?
I felt like it was very ambiguous, but I guess I kind of thought, I guess actually what my maybe take was in that moment, without thinking too deeply about it, was that his going to play the piano was perhaps an attempt to stop being miserable, an attempt to like reconnect to his past self, whether either his past self or their past, what they had in the relationship, I'm not sure, but some attempt on some level to stop being miserable. And I felt like her coming in was like an acknowledgement of, I kind of felt like if in that moment they said, should we stay together or not? He would have said yes and she would have said no. I kind of felt like he was trying to be less miserable, and her putting her head on his shoulder and stuff was almost a like, I have tenderness for you. I have love for you. I'm happy that maybe this is your first step towards being less miserable, but like it's too little too late. And this is like me saying goodbye to this and like sending you on your way.
Absolutely could be. Either way, though, and I think the cool thing about what this movie does is any of those things feels correct, and therefore the ambiguous ending works. It's when one of those endings that we make up, you're like, well, that wouldn't work.
Right.
Like, then you're like, well, then what the fuck? Why did you've set up these 9 clues?
Why did we do this?
Yeah. I think that I like the read that you had of him essentially like, this is him saying he doesn't want to be miserable anymore. Yeah. Whether or not that goes anywhere with her is kind of inconsequential. Yeah. It's we are moved on to a new section of our individual lives. Maybe they're together, maybe they're not. But like we've acknowledged that we're not going to be trapped anymore in whatever miasma of sort of like bitterness or sadness that we've been in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this movie does a lot of emotional heavy lifting in a very small space. I can see why it was very well lauded in the festival circuit as it went around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Any final thoughts you have?
Well, I was just going to end by saying throughout it, I enjoyed myself. I do feel like at times I had to be like, you're thinking too much about the dialogue and how they felt writing it, Chelsea, just like stay in it. But then it must have to some extent, or maybe I went into it already in an emotional state, because at the end of it in the credits, they play Our House. Our House. And I had just been texting like with my parents right before this. And, we're at an age where our parents are getting older. Sure. I think about that so much. And that is a song I really associate with my parents. They used to listen to all the time. So as soon as it ended, that started playing. And like something in me that I didn't know was brewing, just all of a sudden, like I was like, my parents always play this and they're getting old and all we have is each other and this relationship that we just, I started crying. And Tash was like, what did you think? Oh my God. My husband, Tash, he was like, are you crying? I was like, it's not about the movie. It's the song. And our parents are getting older. He was like, okay, do you need to go to the bathroom?
Amazing. It's funny you had that. The last movie I saw with your husband, Tash, was Master of the Universe, and I had the exact same reaction.
You guys bawled, yeah.
I just cried my eyes out. But for different reasons. That's
so that's how I entered the movie. But I was like, people are going to think I'm crying at a Seth Rogen movie, which that's unfair because it was like you said, a very well done, well directed, hit a lot of emotional, places very well, and was overall a well done movie and would be a fine movie to cry at. But let the record reflect.
Yes, of course.
I was crying about different existential things. Anyone at Lincoln Cinema on 68th Street.
You were crying at the movie, not with the movie.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm glad we cleared that up.
And overall, you would watch this movie more times than you watched the game.
That is true. I'd watch this movie twice.
All right.
I think twice. I think that's about it. Anyway, this has been the only podcast about the film The Invite. Chelsea, thank you so much for filling Shahir's shoes this week.
I could never totally fill them because he does wear a bigger shoe size, but thank you for having me on. This was a delight.
When you are not emceeing my wedding, where can folks find you?
Which was such a delight, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
You can find me at the Chelsea White on all platforms, and someday I'll be creative again. So follow me there and wait for that reveal.
All right, good. I personally look forward to that day. I've been a fan of the creative work in the past, and I will be in the future. Of course, you can find me over the websites Extra History and Extra Credits and all that jazz. I do all the things and stuff. I think by the time this comes out, we'll be on either our second episode of our presidential corruption Ulysses S. Grant scandals series, or our Extra History Complete on the Haitian Revolution. Two very different topics, but both very, very good and pertinent for today. Next week, the Cusack attack, the summer of John Cusack starts. I believe, I want to say we start with High Fidelity. I think that's the case.
I can't wait. This is a real treat.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
This is going to be great.
But yeah, until next week, thank you, Topam fan, for listening. Email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of the invite. Let us know how many sex parties you've been invited to.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
I'd like to know that information from your listeners.
Get the information. We'll there'll be a list. Anyway, I guess that's it. Everybody, we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.